Good morning and welcome. I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host for the talk about CPS and to save our children. I welcome you all with your CPS cases. Hopefully, I can help you because I have also had a CPS case. Very bad. I am a loving father and a husband and have a family. And unfortunately, they took my family apart and destroyed it. I lost my home. And I'm trying to rebuild my life, trying to get a career job because I needed to take care of my family. Now, what is CPS? CPS is Child Protection Services. It's a branch of social services that the government has made, the U.S. government, to the federal government to protect our children from neglect and abuse. Children have been abused, neglected for a long time. And we have a public agency that is supposed to protect our children and also do something called family reunification, meaning that the parents of the child are the most important component for the child's development and growth and everything. There's been studies shown that they do better, biological parents do better with their children than non biological parents. I'm not saying other people can't adopt them or take care of children, you know, but the best studies have shown that the biological parents are the best. They need a mother, they need a father. Now, this show, you can interact with it several ways. One, you can text in messages about your CPS case and how am I able to help you. All I ask is your name and what city and state you're from, so I get an idea exactly where the problems are with CPS. I've talked to over 100 people, and it seems to be everywhere, including my own place. I'm from Southern California, and I do these podcasts 7 days a week, twice a day, from 10 in the morning for an hour, then again at 7 o'clock at night for an hour. That's all in Pacific Standard Time. Now, if you want to call in and talk about your case, my number is posted on the screen at 626-698-0990. I will answer the calls between my show times, during my show times. And when you call in, I can put you on speakerphone. They won't be able to see you, but they'll be able to hear you. And then we can talk about your case, or you can help others that are listening to the show. If you don't want to talk now and you want to talk later or be a guest on the show where your face is seen, you can email my producer, Grace, at vincentwdavis.com. That's Grace at vincentwdavis.com. And she'll set you up. We are found through Facebook, broadcasting on YouTube with an application called SteamYard. But when she gets your email, you just pick up the want a morning show or afternoon show, and you want it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Friday, and she'll put you on. Then all you have to do is come on and talk about your case. I'm glad to have you. I really would love to have other people beside myself talk. So there's several ways you can interact on the show. You can text a message, or you can call in, or you can schedule a time to call in. I was hoping we'd have a guest speaker. We had one last night. It was good. It was hard, though. It was about a grandmother trying to get her two grandchildren back. And her granddaughter was really uh, had a medical issue that she was trying to take care of and so forth. But they were from Rhode Island, and Massachusetts was coming over there because they went to a Massachusetts hospital and stole the children. So yes, I'm saying some harsh words about CPS because I've yet to hear a good story about CPS. They stole my children. Yes, they stole my children. And they took them because it was unnecessary for them to take it. And then they hurt my children. They weren't protected in CPS. They were hurt in CPS's hands. What they're doing is child trafficking. They're trying to do it legal. They want to get your children into foster care. The sole reason why they're doing all this is not to protect the children of abuse or neglect. It's for money. Most of the people on here that are coming here are without money. And what little money they have, like with me, I didn't have money, so I tried to find a loan. Well, that was the worst thing you could do. That's the worst thing you can do. You're like Alice in Wonderland falling in a rabbit hole and going nowhere. Alice in Wonderland was stumbling everywhere. She didn't know what door to open, what door to close, where she was, what she was doing. And that's how CPS is. It's a spaghetti of nightmares. It's a cobweb with a nasty spider spinning its web around you, pulling you in, sucking you in, trying to alienate your kids. Now, alienation is against the law. People are not supposed to alienate children. It's against the law. And CPS not only alienates, but they do child trafficking for the sole purpose so they get their $20,000 per month per child from the state and federal governments. That's a lot of money. And you'll find that CPS, is not transparent. There's no watchdog over CPS. They don't have a board of supervisors or directors that, checks them. They're not transparent. They're not supposed to show any accountability for the money that they receive and how it's spent. Furthermore, the social workers, at least mine was, and the ones that I met on the show, I'm talking over 100 people, very young, immature, and they didn't have a college background. No college degree in social work. No classes in social work. And here they are, supposed to do something that is so serious. This is very serious. And why I say it's so serious? If you need an open heart surgery and you have to replace the valve in your heart or some other component in your heart, you're not going to use a layman. You're not going to do it yourself. You're going to get a professional that's been trained, that gone to medical school, that done the internship, that has passed, that has a license to practice medicine, that has mentored. You get an experienced person because that's what CPS is. It's like working on a heart, CPS is. They're very demeaning. They lie. They use the police. They dupe the police and doing all their calls. And they don't really care about you as a parent. They're very terrible towards parents. And they put their children in terrible places. Some of the things I've heard lately are just mind-boggling that CPS is allowed to do that. I mean, for a CPS worker that comes from Massachusetts to Rhode Island, which I know they're close, to steal a child. They had no warrant. They had no court order. And they took it from a grandparent. Now, what did she do wrong? What did she do wrong? CPS doesn't believe in grandparents. They don't even believe in family reunification. So that leads me into rule number 1. The very first thing you do when you're contacted by CPS is get an attorney or have an attorney. Because without an attorney, you're going to be helpless. I was for a year and a half till I finally hired an attorney and then got my kids back. So an attorney is a positive thing. And the law firm, Vincent W. Davis Associates, produces a show, has a legal team of all kinds of attorneys and all kinds of legal matters. But the one you're involved is dependency court, family law, juvenile law. That's what you need an attorney to be background in. Now, you're probably going to say, well, I got a public defender. Well, yeah, you got a public defender, but they're not really an attorney. They're brand new, and they don't work for you. They work for the courtroom. They work for social services, and they won't fight for you. They're going to go along with the easiest resistion. So I'm telling you, it's very important that you think about getting this attorney. Now, we have an attorney, Vincent W. Davis. He's a family law attorney, very professional. He's a juvenile law attorney. He does dependency attorney. He can fight CPS. He has fought CPS, and he has saved children, brought them back home. He is a licensed professional family law attorney. And with that being said, he's also a trial attorney. He does trials. And he will fight to get your kids back. He will fight to get your kids back. So, it's important that you get an attorney. And Vincent will do a consultation for 30 minutes for $49.99. And all you have to do is call in at 888-888-6582. Tell him Bob Pace sent you, that you want a consultation with Mr. Davis. And when you do talk to Mr. Davis, tell him I sent you. So think about getting that attorney. I'd like to welcome Chris Lee Daughtery, who is from Illinois. Mary Todd Goldman, who has spent $20,000 on a lawyer as a crook at CPS. Sean Dickerson, who was thrown off the bar a year after my case started. They all wrote us down and took my granddaughter. Oh, I'm so sorry about that, Mary Todd. And I know you didn't know about Vincent. It's okay. There's other attorneys out there. I don't know what city or state you're from, Mary. Oh, you're from Orange County, California. Oh, wow. I'm so sorry to hear about that attorney. That is so wrong. Anyway, welcome, Mary Todd. Welcome, Christy. There you go. Someone who didn't have very little money spent $20,000 on an attorney that was a crook. So you got to be very careful when you select an attorney. I tell people to pick 10 dependency attorneys, 10 family law attorneys. Of the 10, pick out the top 5 that have worked against CPS, that's gotten the children back. And from that 5, call all 5 of them and talk to them. See if there's chemistry. See how they fought their cases and how they got the kids back. Can they do a civil lawsuit against CPS? So you need to hear that from all 5 of them. Discuss their fees, their retainers, and then from there, you can decide which one you want to pick. But I hope, Mary, if you're in Orange County, that you consider Vincent Davis. He's a good one. He does fight in Southern California, Northern California, and all the states. His retainer is based on the location and how far along the case has gotten and how complex it is. But he'd be really a great candidate to talk to him. He'll strategize with you about how to get your kids back and how to fight CPS. Yeah, he is amazing. Thank you, Mary Todd. Okay, Christy Donnelly would love to talk. I'd love to have you talk. She's been fighting 12 years with CPS or DCF. By the way, the acronyms are all the same. It's Child Protection Services that we're dealing with. Mary, you can just call in at 626-698-0990, and I can put you on speakerphone and you can talk to the room. I'd love to have you call in. My phone is on, and you can call in. Now, you're starting out in your case, if you're at the very start of it. You've been approached by CPS workers, social workers. And you're going to get a lot of calls and allegations. Now, these allegations, when they come in a way of two ways. Either by lay people like family, in-laws, friends, relatives, or professionals, teachers, doctors, firemen, nurses, so forth. Now, the professional people are a little bit better. They're required by law to report suspected child abuse or neglect. And they are pretty realistic about what they suspect. Of course, the child could be injured in a sport. That's why he has a black eye. But they call in to CPS. Now, the other group, the lay people, or friends or relatives, in my case, that's who complained about my case, was my relatives. They wanted to take our children away from us. And me and my wife love our family. We have a big family of 6, and we have 3 older ones. They're living on their own, and then we have 3 ones that, 2 of them are living with us. One of them decided to divorce her parents at 12. And I don't know too many 12-year-olds that know what she did, because we couldn't get her back because she was sold by the foster care, making all these great promises. Apparently, she didn't care about her mother, her father, or her brothers, because when you divorce a parent, you divorce the whole family, the cousins, the relatives, everybody. It's really sad because you're divorcing all of them. Not only did she that, she sealed her birth certificate so that she doesn't exist. Because when you call and search her birth certificate, they say it's not there. And furthermore, she changed her name. That was the sad part. She changed the name that was given to her. She was 12 years old when she did it this time. And now she's 21 and wants nothing to do with her parents. She does see her brothers because we encourage her brothers to see her, even though they don't have to. But it's hard when you lose a family member, and I just think it's really terrible how CPS brainwashes children, alienate children, and do this of child trafficking. Child trafficking, that is awful. It's against the law, but somehow they're allowed to do it on the premises The child's in imminent danger and they have to be taken. I mean, that was so untrue in my case. They don't need to be untaken if they're not in imminent danger. But their SOP is every child needs to be taken and put into the foster care. That's what CPS wants. It's guaranteed money, but they're not in there helping family reunification, and they're going to make you miserable. That mother I was talking to last night, her daughter was in the hospital, experienced something she always had trouble with as a small child, and are treating her, but then they step in during that treatment process, interrupt her, and ask her where her children are at. And she said her children are with her grandmother. What is wrong with that? And man, goodness, they left Massachusetts and came to Rhode Island and took the children. The grandmother didn't know what to do. All of us don't know. When CPS comes knocking, you don't want to do. So you got this case open against you. And rule number 2 is you start taking notes. You have to take notes of the incidents that happened to you. There'll be lots of incidents. You need to write the date and time. And then you got to write who is involved, the children, the social workers, the police, the parents. You write down who is involved. And then after that, you put down what the incident is, what the incident's all about. They took my children from my home, or they came to my home and asked me questions. Whatever the incident is, you write it down. Then you write down the outcome. Now, the outcome may not happen right away, so you may have to come back later to do that, which is fine. Then you skip a couple lines to the next incident and the next incident. So that is rule number 2, and that's really important to take notes. I didn't do that, and I think you need to. Mary Todd, if you'd like to call in at 626-698-0990, I'd love to hear from you. Welcome, DL. DL says, my daughter started, see what he put down. He says, my daughter started the right thing. Charged down, but it was never presented to court because it would look like she was complaining. I think I'm trying to understand that, DL. What city or state are you from, DL? What city or state are you from, DL? Mary, if you want to call in at 626-698-0990. Daniel Wath, welcome. You're from DL's from Pennsylvania. Welcome, DL. Daniel Voth, what city and state are you from? And again, if anyone want to be on the show, it's just call 626-698-0990. So we have several people this morning. We have a call come in. Good. Hello? Hello? Hello, who's this?
Hi, my name is Mary Todd.
Oh, glad to meet you, Mary. Todd, you're from California. I remember early on.
Hello?
Yes. You hear me okay?
I can hear you. You're cutting out just a little bit, but I can hear you for the most part.
All right. I'll be a little bit closer to the phone here. I'm showing you on speakerphone, Mary. So you're in Orange County, the same place I am. So you must have gone through the same similar place I went to, and you found out they're awful, Mary.
It got awful. It was a nightmare, and I didn't know all the things that I know now, of course. And I did speak to Vincent. By then, they had worn us down, and Safira had been taken, my granddaughter. And I spoke to Vincent after that, and and I should have gone forward more. Furthermore, I'm the grandmother, and of course, and I fought tooth and nail for that little girl. It's the most horrible thing that's ever happened, and it'll affect all of us the rest of our life.
Yes, yes.
And we didn't know. I just didn't know all that I know now, and I gave up. I was just so worn down mentally, physically, financially.
Yes,
which is what they do.
Yes, they do. They're very corrupt, and all they think about is the money part.
Yes. Yes. It's very sad, and of course, they make you feel like you have done something wrong, that you're not worthy.
Oh, yeah, they don't believe in family reunification. I agree.
Right. Family reunification bullshit.
Yeah.
Because it's there's no rhyme or reason to what they do most of the time.
No.
It's just I and God, my heart goes out to Christy, the other girl that has been typing, talking with text.
Right.
She also wanted to tell her story. I hope she does.
Yeah, I hope
Christy,
she does
she's
too.
Been fighting for 13 years, she said.
Yes,
God bless her soul.
Yeah, I invited Christy to also call in too, and they took 5 of her kids. And I know you don't know. Children. I don't know where you.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, she says I don't know where to begin. Well, the beginning you usually start at the front when you first got the allegations. And the problem with allegations that were yours done professionally allegations, or were they done by family members or lay people?
You know what? They didn't call on me. I took my granddaughter because they took her from my daughter when she was born. And so, and because my daughter was not, she just wasn't right, and she was with a man that wasn't, I don't think, participating as much as he could have.
Right.
But they ultimately got a second child back because they had another baby 14 months later, and they worked very hard for that. But they were also very confused. So, but they took her from my daughter. I had her, and everything was fine. She had a beautiful home. She was well taken care of. As a matter of fact, the social worker that would come every month to check on her never said one bad thing about me. And when they took her from me because they didn't approve my application for foster mom.
Okay, for a foster mom or custody. All right.
Yes, exactly. And when they denied that, she put in her report that the house wasn't going to be approved. Which, mind you, it was a beautiful home. It was an older home. There was nothing wrong with the house. But she knew there's nothing she could say about me. She was younger. She was newer. And I think she was probably confused over the whole thing. Because she never said one bad thing about me in the report. Because she knew how much that child was loved and how well taken care of she was here.
Yeah.
But there was another family. When they took her from me and denied my application, I gave her to somebody. I asked and requested that they give her to another woman that I didn't really know, but I knew her through a friend, and she was a wonderful woman, but she wanted a child very much, desperate for a child. So they fought against me then for my granddaughter. Regardless, she never should have been taken from me in the first place.
Well, your family.
And my daughter, yes. And yes. And she was attached to me. My lawyer, the creep that he was, should have requested from a psychologist a bonding session with the judge, so that the judge could have seen how attached and bonded she was to me. But he was horrible. He was just as bad as them.
Yeah, the judges are in cahoots. Yes.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about my judge. He was a judge.
As a matter of fact,
Go ahead. Matter of fact,
Yeah.
go ahead. I was going to say that my judge was a horrible judge because his background was in collision repair, auto accidents, and those kinds of incidents. In no
Right.
background in children neglect or abuse or background in family unification. He was not a dependency judge. He was a judge is a whole different
Exactly.
field. And they don't care, by the way. They don't care because
Yeah, my judge, right?
they don't have, it's so weird. They
Yeah.
have a relationship with the social attorneys, social worker attorneys. They have a relationship with the public
Yes.
defender. You know, they go out to have lunch, they go out and play golf, but they don't care. They don't want parents in the courtroom. I had to
Exactly.
sit out in the hall, and you're supposed to be in the courtroom to hear your case. And the only time I was brought in the courtroom was where they try to have you sign something, coerce you into signing something, and you say, "No, I
Yes.
want my attorney to look at it. I want to look at it."
Exactly.
And so that
Yes.
experience in court in Southern California, Orange County, was terrible. And I had fought all the way to the top. I
Yes.
talked to the director of social services at his building, which was a Taj Mahal of a building that looked like the Emerald City of the Wizard of Oz. It was so rich, and he wore so much gold, I thought he was going to collapse on the ground. You know, it's really interesting how people like to show off their money. And my social worker was in her young 20s who had no college background, who was just talking about her Gucci purse, her eyelashes, her makeup, her clothes, her new BMW car. Every time I saw her, it was the same thing. She wasn't
Yeah.
interested in me as a father or my wife as a mother or anything. And there was no reason for them to take our children away. There's no necessity. It wasn't that dangerous. But their MO is to take the children right away when there's an allegation made. But the allegations I found out later
It's,
were made by family members because they wanted to take our children. I had lost my job through no fault of my own, and they were determined to
yeah.
undermine our family and take our children away.
Yes. And yes. And that's what's so sad. It's so corrupt. It's so corrupt, and they don't care what they do to these families and their future.
I agree.
And these children. Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing where you think this could never happen. And if this is the society that we live in, what's next?
Well, a lot of people are trying to fight the issues. There's advocacy groups. There's one girl that usually calls in every day from Kentucky that heads up a group, and you have to make change through your representatives, your senators, and your representatives. That's the only way it's going to be changed. Otherwise, it stays the same.
Well, that you know what, that is something that I would love to be involved in.
Yeah, I know.
And the state representatives would be the best place to start.
Yes, because they're supposed to. They go to Congress to review all kinds of issues, and they should be able to change what's wrong with CPS.
You would think.
Yeah, I
Well,
would.
that's a good place to start. That I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I just feel so bad.
Even as long as it takes. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry for what you've gone through. I just got on recently. Did you get your children back, you said?
No, I got back 2 of my 3. My daughter divorced us.
Wow.
My divorce at 12 years of age, divorced us, went with the foster care people. And I can only summarize is that they had the money to lavish her, which I had done so.
Yes.
But when I lost my job, I had to do a Spartan lifestyle.
Right. Well, I am so sorry for what you've had to go through too, and for everybody out there that has gone through this. And I just want to say to those that are listening, don't give up.
No, that's
Don't
one thing.
let them make you feel that you're not worthy.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
It is. It's very imperative that you get an attorney, and I just cannot believe that $20,000 was wasted on a good attorney. That is so bad.
$20,000. Yeah, there was $10,000 he charged me because we were going back to appeal, and he turned in the appeal 3 weeks late and charged me $10,000. And of course, at that point, we lost.
Wow.
Yeah, and I need to file with the bar and with a complaint. He's
Yes.
been disbarred, of course, for other cases and violence, which was all going on at the same time, and I didn't know. But I was so worn down and so broken, and felt so unworthy. Of course, even then, that I haven't done it yet, and I need to do that because he has been disbarred. Thank God.
Right.
He won't practice again in California at least.
Right. Well, there's many people writing. There's lots of people writing in right now, and one of the questions came up is that who will fight for you? And I said, I'm fighting you. I've been doing this for 14 years. And,
there you go.
2010, I lost my job through no fault of my own. In 2015, my kids were stolen. In 2018, I got 2 of my 3 children back. And here I am talking to over hundreds of people all across the country about how bad CPS is. I don't hear any good stories. So I hear you, DL, what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, you're saying Congress,
you just have to fight for yourself.
Congress isn't corrupt. Congress is made up of representatives and senators that can't agree on it. It's pretty much an even balance of Democrats and Republicans. But you're right. Congress is it's really sad where we're at now because this isn't the only issue in the United States. I mean, we're right now bankrupt. And one of the reasons why we're bankrupt is we give too much money to CPS. $20,000 is way too much money to give to raise a child per month. And so that's what money. Then I heard that there's a religious group in Texas that's given money to refine gas, and he has not refined a drop of it. And for years, they've been giving him millions of dollars. The government has. So our money is not being carefully spent. I heard that a toilet seat in the U.S. government costs $10,000 to replace. And that is a highway robbery ripoff. I mean, those are cases I've heard firsthand. $10,000 for a toilet seat. It's just, we wonder why we're so broke is because we have no control over our money, no accountability. But CPS, with their money they get from us, feed their coffers. My social worker was all excited about getting a bonus. That's all she was thinking about. She wasn't thinking about unification or taking care of her kids. So I really feel
Clinton that gave them a bonus that said every child that's taken, the social worker gets a bonus.
Yes.
It's all about money. That's what, and when you know that, when you're fighting, if you know that, if you're more educated about this whole thing, you're gonna know you can fight harder.
Right.
You're gonna have that's gonna be your backup right there.
Well, DL just said that. DL.
I'm gonna get off the.
No, I'm glad you're talking because I want to hear more about how it started and where it went there because DL was charged $3,000 December for an all-day hearing in January that never happened. Why did you have to pay for the hearing, DL?
You know what? You're cutting out.
I'm sorry.
I'm not getting
Is this
all of your
no?
that whole sentence.
Okay. Do you hear me better now? Do you hear me better?
Does it cut out?
Yeah. Do you hear me better now?
It's better.
Okay. I was
Yeah,
taking off my.
better, but it's still cutting out for some reason.
Yeah, I was using my headset, and when I used my headset, it wasn't transmitting your voice very well, so that's why I do it this way. I'm using my computer speaker to make sure that my volume is on because that's important.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a little bit better. It's not as staticky and cutting out.
Okay. I'm also
much better.
multitasking with people who are texting in
Right.
their issues and talking to you, which is fine. I'd like to know what the allegations of your daughter that had her child taken away. Why did the hospital reported her to CPS? Was she tested positive for drugs?
You know what? She was not. She smoked pot prior to the pregnancy, and of course for anxiety. The day she had that baby, and her doctor. Let me just back up. Her doctor never indicated to her that smoking pot was, illegal or she shouldn't do it. I don't know what went on there, but she did mention that because she was sick, nauseous, that she had taken a few totes of marijuana that morning, and then they induced labor that afternoon, and she had the baby. That's why they called. They drug tested her, and then they drug tested the baby.
Yeah, they do that.
And through the whole case. Right, but they never came back with any test that proved she was doing drugs. And they even tested the baby and never came back with, and they used that the whole time. We're waiting for tests. A year, 2 years later, but we never heard anything about those tests. Because I'm assuming because they didn't find anything.
Yeah.
And so that's why they did take her. There was mental illness, of course, too.
Yeah.
But I was the one that had the baby, and they knew how much. They knew that I was always. I'm a good parent, and I was helping my daughter, and all she needed was time. Her hormones were just out of whack after all that. And so, but she had a second child 14 months later, and they gave that baby back to her. 14 months later, and they gave that baby back to her. So one day that little girl is going to come back and say, why didn't you fight for me? And what's going to happen to her? It's just, and the judge's reasoning for not giving her back to me in the case, the first case, of course we appealed, but he was 3 weeks late, was because I love too much. That was his reasoning. We were in court for 3 solid days. I will say he gave us 3 days, and I was in the courtroom. And we put in a good case, and I was on the stand. And the judge said to me, Mary, I've never met a woman that loves as much as you do. And that was his reasoning.
Wow.
I'm sorry. It's just, but he said, but the social workers know more. They've decided that they don't want you to have that baby, so I'm just going to go with them, is basically what he said. It's just, yeah. You know what? Look, white children with light color eyes, they want more than anybody. That's what they're looking for. They weren't going to take that baby. They were never going to give that baby back to me. Oh.
You said that your daughter had another baby?
Yes.
And they took away that child too?
They took that baby right off the bat.
Well, they have a rule that if you're under CPS investigation, you cannot have any more children, which I think is wrong.
Right, exactly. Well, exactly. But they gave her back that child. She worked for that one. See, I will say she was able to put forth the effort at this point to fight for that baby and try to fight for Sapphira, our granddaughter. and they gave her back to her, which I knew she would be able to be fine. I knew she was amazing. She is amazing today, amazing, and she should have had her daughter too. We should have had her daughter. I was willing to adopt her daughter, and she would have stayed with me. It one way or the other, it never should have happened. They never should have taken that baby. They never should have taken her from me. But we did get the second one back because they knew. They knew at that point. I mean, they go so far. They weren't going to take a second one when we fought for the first one like we did.
Wow.
I mean, and right, does it make sense even? They
No.
completely took the first one, but 14 months later, they give you the second one back. And so to this day, we talk to it's a little boy, he's 2 years old now, and we talk to him about his sister. And we will always have her in our heart, and we say little things, and we keep her alive in our home, because when she turns 18, we will find her.
Yeah.
If not sooner. Yeah.
So after the second child was returned, then what happened?
Well, my granddaughter, after that, my daughter, who is now strong and fighting, wrote to the judge, even though my appeal had been denied, which we didn't even find out for months because my lawyer wasn't contacting us. We couldn't get a hold of him.
Oh, no.
And that's when we found out he had been disbarred.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
But he wrote a letter to the judge. My daughter wrote an amazing letter to this judge stating, and the same judge had her second child. So he knew about the first child. He knew the whole story. I don't know if he knew the lawyer was disbarred. I'm sure he did. Who knows? But she wrote him a beautiful letter stating, "This is where I'm at now. And I'm living with my mother, and she is. We want her back now." The letter was amazing, and he denied her again. He denied her again after giving the second child back 14 months later.
Yeah.
None of it makes sense. And that's right. That shows you how heartless they are.
I agree. They're very heartless. There's no question about that.
And I asked, when I was on the stand, let me just say this. When I was on the stand, I looked at that judge and I asked him if he had grandchildren. And I said, you know how it feels to have a grandchild, because your heart, you open up a whole new heart when you have a grandchild. And he smiled from one end to the other. And he had grandchildren. I think that social workers that take children away should have to have one more prerequisite, and they should have children. So at least they might have some idea of what it's like to have a child taken, or imagine. Because even though this man had grandchildren, he knew, and he still had no qualms about taking her from us, seeing how capable I was.
They're so heartless when they do that.
I wonder what they did. Yes. I wonder what kind of a bonus he did.
Oh,
for taking his child.
It's ridiculous. It should not be rewarded on bonuses. It should not be of money. I'm not telling that CPS workers have to work in a poverty place, but they don't need the Taj Mahal that they have. It's ridiculous. They don't need that.
Exactly. And they yes. Oh, yeah. Exactly. Because money is such a motivator. That's the worst part of it. That's probably the core of the problem.
Yes.
Right there is all the money that they get and the bonuses that they get. Yes, that's probably where the representatives need to start. When something that it seems to be the only reasonable spot to start. That's the only reason they do it. It's happening across the United States.
Yes, agreed. Well, I wanted to tell you about rule number 3. I said rule number 1 was get an attorney. Rule number 2 is to take notes. Rule number 3 is not to talk to social workers, not to talk to policemen. Don't let them in your home. Don't let them take your child. They have to get permission or get a court warrant signed by a judge that they have to take your child or come into your home. Um, you know, uh, that has to be signed and all in ship shape before they can touch your daughter. So I'm sorry that you got your daughter taken from you, and I want to really see if you help you get your daughter back. I mean, that's a hard thing. I mean, your daughters. I get confused sometimes. I mean, your daughters.
Right.
Your granddaughter.
Right.
Your granddaughter.
Yeah, well, and she's been adopted out now.
Really?
Right, my
Why?
granddaughter. And she's now been adopted, yes.
Why is she adopted out?
She has been adopted because of the people that took her, the foster parents that took her. They became foster parents so they could take her.
But wait a minute. Don't you have rights as didn't your daughter have her rights? Her rights be taken away from her?
I don't know. I'm not sure how that works. We have no idea where she's at even now.
Oh my God! They have done kidnapping. Not only do they do child trafficking, they do kidnapping.
Yes.
Oh no!
Yes. I can't even be. We have no contact. We don't know where she is. They were living in a city right by us, and of course, they've moved.
Oh boy! Oh boy!
And CPS, CPS, it allows the foster parents to make that decision as to whether they let you have contact with the child.
You know, here's a form I want you to.
Of course.
Yeah, I want you. I'm going to give you guys a form. All you listening, because if you want to find out where your children is, all you have to do is file motion 388 in the courtroom. It tells the judge that you want to have a hearing within 30 days to discuss your case plan, to show that you've completed your parenting classes, to show that you've tested negative for drugs. It's the new evidence. What that will also do is the court will have to tell you where the child's at.
Again, so I'm not hearing you.
All right. It's a 388. Do you hear me now? Well, let me put my headset back on, okay? Maybe that will work out better. Okay. Is this better? Do you hear me better now? Hello? Do you hear me better?
No, that's not better.
That's not better. It's not better. Okay.
No, you got better at first when you did the first time.
Well, here, I'm just turning my speaker on and off. Okay, is that better? Mary, is that better?
Talk.
Testing 1,
yes,
2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Okay. I was talking about a motion called a 388. It's a motion you file with the dependency court. It forces a judge to have a hearing to talk to him about your child. And you can sit there if you have new evidence, you finish parenting classes, or you have something new, and it forces them to talk about your child. Where's your child at? It'll flush them out. It's a 388.
So should I have representation for that?
Technically, you don't need to, but I would. I would talk to anybody about filing a 388 and see what will happen.
Right. And with Vincent, I'll call Vincent.
Yeah, well, Vincent is, as you say, he's for 30 minutes. He's $49.99, and you should not have had your daughter's children should not have been taken away. They should not have been taken away.
No, they should not have been. You're absolutely right. Yes, and of course I should have started a lawsuit with Benson Davis when it happened, and I did speak to him, but again I was so worn down and beat down and made you feel that no, we weren't worthy. It's terrible, and I knew I was, but they, like I said, they were, and you know, that's if they can't get them one way, they'll get them another, and they wear you down mentally, financially, and physically. And that's where I was at. And so I'm going to call Vincent about that then.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're on here.
Well, it's so important for you out there because it's a hard case, CPS. It's like you're Alice in Wonderland falling in the rabbit hole. And you're in that rabbit hole and you're going through doors that don't open and places. CPS is a spider.
Yes.
It's weaving you in. It's so toxic in there. They don't care about grandparents. They don't care about, mothers. They take away children. They think it's extreme necessary because of child abuse or neglect or something. How can a woman who gives birth to a child be placing that child in extreme necessity to be taken from her? That child needs the nurse. That child needs the mother's milk.
Exactly.
And you don't interrupt. You do not take it. And furthermore, you should have, your daughter should have said, "Do you have a warrant? And please get out of my birthing room.
Right.
This is my privacy."
You know what? Yes. And that's another thing. Let me mention that. When they took away the second child, that baby, he was bonded with that child. They took that baby away 3 days later. They let her keep that baby with her for 3 days. And she nursed that baby, and she loved that baby. Now, this is the boy, the second child. And when they took that baby away from her, that baby cried so much, they gave that baby morphine because they said it was coming down from drugs, which it was not. And I've read since then studies. They've done maybe one fairly tapped into. Maybe they've done more, but they don't document it publicly. What it does to a baby when they take it from the mother like that. The reason they gave that baby morphine is because it cried hysterically because he wanted his mother.
Yes.
And that morphine, they take a baby away because they say the mother's doing drugs, which they never found any, but then they give the baby drugs. Morphine. I even wrote in Quora and
now was that the doctor? Was that the doctor or was that the social worker?
The hospital took the baby, and then so I'm not sure. I'm sure that I don't know because when they tested my daughter with that second child, she was well aware that they had tested her on both. One of the nurses said they didn't find anything to her, so that she knew there was nothing. So I'm sure it was social services that requested the drug test. But irregardless, there were no drugs.
Wow.
And to this day, they've not come up with a test that shows drugs. To this day, they haven't. And 2 years later with the first one.
Well, that motion 388,
there were
you need to have a hearing with the judge to talk to you like you're talking to me about what they did to your second grandchild.
And that's exactly what I'm going to do. As soon as I get off, I'm going to call and see if I can get something with Vincent going.
Right. Well, tell him that Bob Pace sent you. And when you speak to Vincent Davis, say that Bob Pace sent you. I'm going to have to end my show because I got like a half minute left. I want to thank all the people that have written in: DL, Daniel Walt, Christy Donnery. Who else is writing in here? Energetic Remedies. Christy Daughtery. I think I've already said her. Daniel Walt, Christy Daughtery. and
Thank you for being on.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you for coming on. Daniel Juan is another person, and then I'm almost at the top here. I want to thank all my listeners and everything. I don't want them forgetting. And of course, you, Mary Todd, for taking this time to share your case. So I want to say thank you all for listening. God bless you. Do not give up, and you will get your children back. God bless you, and I'll see you tonight. Bob Pace.